Everyone. I know I didn't get on here yesterday. As the executor having to sell a house, then I got carried away with all my appointments, spent the afternoon figuring out what to do along with the realtors. And by the time I got back here, I was done. Anyhow, days are very full. Life is very varied. Varied was what I was going to say. And that keeps me alive and young, just like you. But today it was about knowing. A lot of the work I've been doing recently with clients is around knowing ourselves, not only knowing what's in our brain and understanding all this nattering that we need to take control of and move over here to some wisdom, which we have. All of that is part of this knowing within ourselves, knowing ourselves. So I'm just going to ask, are you familiar with that feeling? And if we're not aware every day, we don't always catch that. But I know there are times when you have just felt inside, I know that to the core of my being, to the depth of my soul. There's something in there that just settles in, and it's a knowing. That is what I'm talking about, that knowing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, I was going to say skill. It's not a skill. It's an awareness. It's a beautiful awareness when we are able to quiet ourselves enough to really understand those moments when we feel it settle down into us, and we know that all of this fighting and scrapping and pointing and blaming, all of that BS was just out there, but in here, we know about ourselves. Did we do something to bring that on? Did we? Get honest. What do we know? Or as somebody's trying to bully us or pressure us into their point of view, and we're in the argument, like, choose your arguments. Is it important to even be in the argument? Is there a way to set a healthy boundary and say, bless you, that's what you believe, we're not on the same path, and that's okay. I love you anyhow. Bless them and let them go. You see, because that's when you know who you are. That knowing. So this topic kind of came up with a daily om that I was looking at, and I was cleaning up my emails, and I had saved this one for just a special day like today, when it was really setting in me and in my soul, and knowing the peace that comes while the storm goes around, the peace that comes with knowing who I am. Where is my task to be done? What is my position? And how am I being swayed or not swayed the way it needs to be for this task as an executor, for instance? But it can work for many, many situations. And it can work for your personal boundaries as well. So knowing is that internal feeling deep in our soul, in our being. When I'm talking about the being, who are we being? Not the mother, not the husband, not the boss, not the career person, not the superwoman. In my soul, who am I being? So when I speak of being, I'm speaking about who we are when nobody's watching, who we are when we're by ourselves. Who are we being? Knowing what we need to know in order to get through our lives. That's what knowing is as well. Just knowing what we need to know in order to get through our lives, our daily lives, through that daily internal directing of our life. So when we disconnect from that logical heart, now, yes, I did say in the writing, that's an oxymoron. Logical is usually here. Logical is where we determine with the mind. And if we get the extra chatter going away and get down to their 20% of their usefulness, where they are useful, the 20% where the chatter is useful, and we apply that, and we take that 80% of garbage and BS over here and transform it to wisdom, to the knowing and the applying, that logic will then get sorted out and then will be directed by our heart. But there will be a combination, but the heart is the boss. The heart is the boss. So that's where we come to that oxymoron, the logical heart. We are combined, we need it all, but the logical heart allowing us. So I'm going to read what De Leon had to say about knowing, the different ways of knowing. That's where I'm going to wind it up today. And I certainly appreciate when there are comments and conversation occurring down here below. And you know, if you need to work with me or choose to work with me, you know the kind of depth I lead you into, because that's where the growth is. It's all simple. There's nothing tricky about it, but it ain't easy. And it needs the guidance and help and the participation. It has been my experience. We need the implementation to make it actually happen. So here we go. Common sense, while not always officially rewarded, has its own special genius. We human beings have many ways of knowing what we need to know in order to get through our lives. One way of knowing things is to engage in a course of study in an academic environment. And I've lost my place here. Another way of knowing things is simply to go through the experiences that come our way. I like that one. Making a conscious effort to learn from them. So as the experiences happen, taking a conscious experience as a learning opportunity from them. And the third way, can't get my fingers up there, a third way in which people gain knowledge is through the vehicle of intuition. Now that intuition is starting to talk towards, calm that chatter down to the 20% that's useful, over here to the sage, to the wisdom, and then going down into the heart. That is intuition in action, in my opinion. It's that sixth sense. A gift some have more than others, but which can be developed in anyone. So yes, you can develop it. No one knows, no one way of knowing things is better than in any other way. So whether you take a course or whether you learn from the experiences, or if you dig right on down into the intuition, no one way of knowing things is better than another, and they can all be useful in different points in our lives. And that has certainly been my experience. Most of us naturally gravitate toward one way of knowing over others. And this tends to be clearly alive, and we know from that early in life. For the most part, we live in a culture that values logical, mental approach to everything. So the undervalued or misunderstood is our intuitive gifts, our heart. Many of us are working our way out of this incorrect value judgment and recognizing that our intuition, far from being wrong or untrustworthy, is a great gift. For those of us who conduct our learning in the thick of our life experiences, we may also have to make an extra effort to remind ourselves that our particular intelligence, often called common sense, while not always officially rewarded, does have its own special genius. And finally, even though in a given time or place, certain types of intelligence tend to be valued more than others, no way of knowing is inherently better than another. Once we understand this, now we can value our own intelligence. I love that. It has been a journey for me to own my own kind of intelligence, to recognize they're not better than I am because they've got their master's or their bachelor of education or their PhD. They've just gone the academic route. That's all. I've gone the intuitive life experience route. That's all. All of them are beautiful. But I am so happy I've arrived where I have arrived. So once we understand this, we can value our own intelligence as well as the different intelligences of the people we encounter. Sometimes just understanding that we are coming at the same issue in different ways helps us to avoid an unnecessary conflict. When we value all ways of knowing equally, we benefit not only from what we have learned and how we have learned it, but from all the other forms of intelligence we are open to honoring. With that, I'm going to leave it that you can rewind, you can listen a couple times, you can chew it over, but there is the essence of this knowing. It's Coach Sandra, compassionate queen of straight talk, having trouble talking, compassionate queen of straight talk. You can do it, and I am here. I can help. Have a wonderful day.